It is difficult to understand why Kenyan politics continues to dominate our space despite the ongoing global crisis. People have lost their livelihoods. Others are struggling to put food on the table. Some very unfortunate women are boiling stones in their sufurias to give their children the illusion that food is cooking, so that they can go to sleep without food. But even when all this is happening, Kenyan politics continues to dominate our discussions. I'm telling you, Kenyans are a strange lot. Anyway, the latest in politics is that the Jubilee party has confirmed the appointment of the 5 controversial appointments to their powerful National Management Committee. And they've done this by placing an advertisement in Kenya's dailies. The ad simply says, so and so, all the 5 names are now appointed, duly appointed, to the National Management Committee. And Kenyans are hilarious. So let me put it the way a certain Kenyan has put it, a very funny guy. He has said, the ODM special envoy to Jubilee, Raphael Tuju, placed the ad, in the form of a statement, which he signed himself as Secretary General of the party. Humor is good, and in a minute I'll tell you why, and especially why it is so critical going forward. On today's show, we will start by analyzing that, and then as usual, we'll also analyze the latest in the global crisis, where I can summarize the situation as follows. Things are falling apart for the perpetrators of the crisis. Things are just not working out. And although nobody can predict what will happen tomorrow, this seems to strongly suggest that all this will be dramatically over very soon. So that is something to look forward to in this show. So stay with me. Now, before we dive into the politics, as promised, I need to explain why humor is so important. Now, I learned today that it is impossible to mix the two human emotions of fear and humor. If you have humor, fear cannot be there. Fear cannot exist. And if you have fear, nothing will be funny to you. Oh, yes. There's a new genre of movies called horror comedy. Now, how do those two go together? Because a horror is supposed to entertain you by causing you to fear. A comedy is supposed to make you laugh, by showing you funny things. Very odd, but I understand it's getting more and more popular every day. Although to my mind, somebody who would watch horror comedy sounds very much like some of the sick minds behind the current global crisis. Let me just leave it at that. So on today's show, we will try to use as much humor as possible. More so because I know so many people are still fearful. That was the whole objective behind this crisis. That's very clear right now. People are on edge and very worried. Some have lost livelihoods. Some have lost fortunes in their business enterprises. Poleni sana. Anyway, because of all that, humor would be quite useful just now. So I'll try my best. Siasa. Let's start with it right away. The latest developments within the Jubilee political party, indeed the ruling party in Kenya, are very much like a couple driving from Nakuru coming into Nairobi. And as they approach Kikopey, the wife tells the husband, don't even think about stopping at Kikopey. That place where you like having meat, it smells. You can get an upset stomach or something more serious eating meat there. Don't even think about it. And then guess what the husband does? He slows down and drives right inside Kikopey and orders his usual mbuzi choma and starts eating. And the wife remains seated inside the car, looking horrified at the husband as he's chewing the nyama choma. And the husband looks back at her with that look of, utadu? Yep, that is exactly what has happened here. Because Team Tanga Tanga, and indeed the Deputy President, complained bitterly. They said you can't do that. That's not how you do things in a political party. You can't appoint these 5. No way. There's a procedure which you're not following. And Raphael, Tuju and company have just ignored them. You know, the Deputy President has his own style of doing politics and doing things. And who am I to argue against them? Because those tactics have gotten him into the position he holds now. The second most powerful man in the land, the Deputy President. But still, although I'm a nobody to complain, let me just say, I don't understand him when he sometimes goes out of his way to say, oh, we talk with the president every day, we talk with him very regularly, we're in constant touch, oh, there's no problem between me and the president. And then when something like this happens, of course he ends up with egg on his face. Because the first question, in your daily talks with the president, why didn't you bring up this issue of these 5 appointees into the Jubilee party? Anyway, the main point here is that despite denials by the Deputy President, despite a few people telling us, oh no, this thing is fake, Uhuru and his deputy are pretending, they're going to con Raila at the last minute, despite all those stories, this latest development of the Deputy President and his team saying something and being totally ignored is very telling. It tells us that the split within Jubilee Party, for those who doubted, is very real. And not only is it real, it is vicious. Just like that husband who ignores his wife about having to stop at Kikopey for nyama choma. She says, don't even think about it. And the husband ignores. You can't tell me that that couple is pretending. And you can't convince me that their relationship is okay. No. In fact, this incident alone confirms that things are much worse within Jubilee than anybody ever thought. Now, some handlers of the Deputy President have been quoted as saying that the Deputy President will now go to court to oppose the appointment of those 5. Ati? Yani, this Jubilee war, or the war within Jubilee, will be taken to the courts. And you still want to convince me they're pretending? What? So, what is going to happen next? Okay, let's go back to that example I gave you. So you completely ignore your wife, you stop over at Kikopey, you gorge yourself with roast goat meat, and you finish and you burp loudly until you scare some cows on the other side of the street. And then you wash your hands and get back inside your vehicle and continue driving to Nairobi. Do you think it'll be business as usual? Do you think that there'll be no counter measure or counter response from your wife who you have ignored in such a manner? Well, think again. Because you reach home, and you sit down comfortably in front of the TV set, to take in the latest Kumekucha video, or watch CNN, and then you expect food to come to you. And then your wife goes into the kitchen, cooks, eats, and heads towards the bedroom. Allah, kwani me I'm not eating today? Guess what she does? She does exactly what you did to her. She ignores you. And after you serve yourself with food, I'm telling you, Kenyans really eat, We really need to check into that. That's a story for another day. So after you finish eating, and then you walk towards your bedroom, expecting you're going to talk to her nicely and she'll forget the whole issue, pembeleza her so that you can get your conjugal rights, etc., etc. And then when you walk into the bedroom, you find that there's a 6-foot barbed wire constructed right down the middle of the bed. Fully electrified. If you touch it, you'll be electrocuted. And then, as if the fence is not enough, she's humming Christian songs. And you usually know that means trouble. And as you're licking your wounds, you grab your smartphone, go to the latest Kumekucha video, and type about 5 comments in quick succession, all abusive towards Chris Kumekucha. This guy doesn't know what he's talking about. This idiot, this idiotic video, this idiotic remarks of Kumekucha cannot just be taken like that. You release all your frustrations on the channel, and yet you're the one who started the whole business. Bottom line, we should expect a reaction, a very serious counter-reaction from Team Tanga Tanga. In my view, going to court will not be an effective enough response. What I mean is that they may still go to court to oppose the appointment of these 5, but they will also do something else to hit back at Team Keleweke, and especially the party leader, the president. And trust me, it will be something more serious than unleashing Oscar Sudi to make those famous remarks of his, biting remarks. So far, Team Tanga Tanga have been careful. They hit out at Team Keleweke, and then they finish the statement with something like, the president is being misadvised. We have no problem with the president, but those people surrounding him, akina Mradhe, etc., etc., they've been polite. Now, I'm guessing the gloves are off. So they'll go directly and attack the party leader directly. They will do their best to make this government, of which they're a part of, look very useless and inadequate. Folks, whichever way you want to look at it, and even if I'm not completely right in how they're going to react, one thing you can be very sure of: they will respond. And the response, it is like somebody trying to swat a fly with a newspaper, and then by accident, they knock over the music system. And the other angry party picks up a hammer and goes towards the fly, which is around the TV set, the 55-inch TV set. And you know that they're not aiming for any fly with that hammer. They'll pretend to. But their target is for that expensive TV set to be hit by that hammer and land flat on the ground, completely damaged. That will be the response of Team Tanga Tanga. And to me, that is scary. It means that the war within Jubilee has escalated. It has gone to another level. And in my view, I suspect even Raila Odinga will not be spared. Yes, is not a member of Jubilee Party. In fact, is the leader of ODM. But so what? In fact, already we're being told he has sent a special envoy to the Jubilee Party who is making decisions. The ODM special envoy to Jubilee, Raphael Tuju. That biting, humorous comment tells you that ODM, or at least the ODM party leader, is not going to be spared as this battle within Jubilee escalates dangerously. And by the way, all this is unfolding when some Kenyans are cooking stones in their sufurias. Something much more important, something which in my view needs a very significant government response. And surely there are so many other issues, there are so many other problems that are crying out for solutions in our country, crying out for attention, which of course they will not get as people sort out their differences within the Jubilee Party. Now, on to this maneno ya hii virus ambayo ilitoka mahali panaitwa Wuhan, People's Republic of China. There is a country in the southern side of the continent of Africa called Madagascar, who have come up with something called COVID organics, which they claim has treated the virus in their country. Now, those people who took this report seriously and expected people to take it seriously are those people who are still in the dark. They are not aware of what is happening. You know, when you have studied somebody's actions and reactions and the way they're behaving, you can very easily predict their response to virtually anything. You know what they will say. You know how they will react. This is like your house help, who studied finance before she came to work for you, coming up to you and telling you that she has a suggestion, a solution to your cash flow problems during this virus crisis. She has an idea or two of what you can do with your finances to ensure that you come out on top. How do you think you'll react? How do you think your friends will react if they hear, oh, this friend of ours was being given financial advice by his maid? Kwani ameruka kichwa? Maybe we should take him for some psychiatry analysis. And it doesn't matter how good that advice is. It doesn't matter that this maid didn't have any other option. And not only does she have a finance-related degree, she has some experience, which she got before circumstances changed, and she had to take up this job, looking after your babies, as a house help. In case you haven't noticed, Africa inadharauliwa tena sana. So, the issue here is not whether or not it's effective. The issue that we must deal with first is how Africa is looked at, trampled upon by most of the rest of the world. And then, when we fully realize this and it sinks in, that in fact what other people are after is our destruction, we need to take a quick decision and decide to secede from the rest of the world. Hold everybody at arm's length and look for our own homegrown solutions, because I believe those solutions are in Africa. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying herbal medicine doesn't work. No, that's not what I'm saying. In fact, in case you're not aware, some people have made fortunes by coming to Africa, discovering what Africans are using to treat what, and then stealing the whole idea, going back to the West, and creating a cure, in tablet form or whatever. And then they've come back and sold us, our own medicine, Oh yes, that has happened for centuries and decades. And you know one huge advantage about herbal remedies is that they have no side effects. Yeah, they're not like the other medicine we receive from the West that has all kinds of complications. And having said that, I'm sure the medical doctors we have on this channel, most of them, will be very horrified at what I've just said. Kumekucha Chris, I've lost all respect for you. Yani you can suggest herbal remedies. How? The hygiene alone, in the preparation of these African medicines. You're not serious. Oh yes, I'm aware of that. And I agree, one has to be careful because we have all kinds of conmen walking around in Africa these days who are after money and then all the other things later. You know, when I was about 9 years old, my grandmother, my mother's mother, got very sick. She had many complications, diabetes, etc., etc. And the situation got so bad that she even got paralyzed on one side of her body. And she had 2 daughters in the medical profession, including my mother. And then my grandmother on the other side, the mother to my father, heard about this and was very concerned. And she went to the root of some tree, got a herb, mixed it with fat from a goat. I'm not sure if I can remember all the details, but then boiled, all that in a huge sufuria. And a week later, my sick grandmother was walking. And people in the medical profession could not understand how that had happened. True story. I witnessed it myself. How hard is it for we Africans to organize ourselves and our treatments and create a system with the correct hygiene, etc., etc., and treat the diseases given to us by the West through GMO foods, genetically modified foods, and junk food, and all the other rubbish we import into the continent, which has brought us some very serious diseases. Why can't we organize ourselves and treat our people from these diseases using African solutions? But I'm just dreaming. That is impossible. The protocols in the medical profession, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, the World Health Organization responded very quickly to this claim from Madagascar. Seated in faraway Geneva, Switzerland, they said there is no evidence that this concoction can actually treat the virus. They were polite. The statement was issued in polite language. But you and I know what must have happened behind the scenes. Some people must have gotten a very good laugh. You're saying this thing came from Africa? This so-called treatment? Oh, golly. Are you trying to give me some voodoo stuff when we have such a serious global crisis? I guess the next thing you'll tell me is that the patient has to jump over some sticks on the ground to heal. After swallowing this filth that can make anybody sick, get serious. We have more serious things to look at. Treatment from Africa? Get out of here. You know, this also tells us something else. My sick grandmother was being looked after by medical professions. In fact, one of them was very senior in the medical profession. And they got desperate. And all they were interested in was seeing an improvement. They were ready to try anything. And that's why they accepted the roots of a tree from my grandmother from the other side. And it worked. If indeed the world was desperate for solution, what would have happened is that the officials at the World Health Organization would have taken a flight to Madagascar. Or at the very least, sent one of their top scientists to check out the claim and to verify if indeed it worked and on what kind of patients the herbal remedy worked on. That is the correct reaction from somebody who is desperate and wants to solve a problem. But we have also seen a lot of other evidence that proves people here are carefully behaving in line with a carefully prepared script. Because even if coming to Africa is quite a stretch, then they would have taken up Donald Trump on his allegations and tested what he suggested thoroughly and then quickly recommended it to countries all over the world. But they didn't do that, did they? They were more interested in dismissing the President of the United States of America. Laughing at him, making him a laughingstock. That's what they're more interested in. Does that sound to you like somebody who's desperate for a solution? No, of course not. In fact, I think some people got very upset, because what they're after is a vaccination. Vaccinate the whole world. There's no other solution. Only vaccination can solve this problem. And you're crazy if you think there's another solution. And you know, all this is good, believe it or not. Why? Because evidence is piling up that there's something wrong here. A few days ago, the famed Dr. Tony Fauci was asked by a journalist whether it was true that a lot of the figures were being padded, being exaggerated of deaths from this virus. His response, indeed very arrogant response, was as follows. You know, when you have a problem as serious as this one, there are bound to be a lot of conspiracy theories flying all over the place. Now, when he's saying that, a country called Italy is reviewing all the death certificates of the people who are said to have died from the virus to verify what was the real cause of death. And for this exercise, they're using their top medical professionals. Now, first of all, you don't do something like that unless you suspect something. Doctors right across the United States are saying that we have been forced, we have been put pressure on by hospital administrations to write on the death certificate that the main cause of death was COVID. And you know, the whole idea is that the world is supposed to forget that people usually die from all kinds of ailments. In fact, people are supposed to now start thinking that since the virus came along, people are not dying from any other ailment. All the other ailments have stopped. Cancer has vanished, pneumonia has vanished, etc., etc. All diseases have vanished. And now there remains only one disease that kills people in the world. Only one. And of course, we have shared on this channel on a regular basis all the other problems that have come, all the other big questions that are being asked about this crisis. And there are no answers forthcoming. The best answer we can get is that in situations like this, you expect a lot of conspiracy theories. That word has even lost its meaning. Because figures of people who have passed on cannot be a theory, conspiracy theory, because the certificate is there. And the figures are clear. Nothing theoretical about that. And the other ailments these people are suffering from are also recorded. So there's no conspiracy and there's no theory. Just look at the figures and verify them. And tell us the truth. And while you're at it, give us the total number of deaths last year so that we can compare them to this year. And see whether there's a spike in the total figures. Meaning that there was a new ailment taking away the lives of people. And there are so many other strange things which are happening. But what I find most interesting is the reactions of some Africans. Brainwashed Africans who swallow everything they see in the news, especially on CNN, hook, line, and sinker. They don't want to believe that Mzungus can have an agenda. They don't. By the way, this business about Tanzania, my advice is relax. Let us wait and see what happens. I am fully aware that even Tanzanians are very scared. Some of them expect bad things to happen, including people in parliament. And this is proof that the brainwashing of Africans has been so thorough, so extreme, that most people are beyond being helped. And I'm increasingly coming across evidence that somebody, a non-Tanzanian, is stage managing things in that country. And they're forgetting that Kenya and Tanzania are not very different. So if it is true people are falling dead in Tanzania, the same should also be happening in Kenya. From my experience, I've been involved in so many similar situations. Where I discover something, I reveal the information, and then people just get very mad at me. Chris, you're wrong. We're sure you're wrong. And in some cases, people have even come up with very convincing evidence to show me how wrong I am. And guess what I've done? I have kept silent. I've given it time. Then a few months later, the whole truth comes out. I'm used to these things. Just give them time. Time normally is a very good judge. Because months later, when people have forgotten, evidence emerges that actually I was correct. Because I don't say things just like that. I don't make up or cook up things. I usually do my research. And of course, sometimes I'm wrong. I'm not right all the time. And usually when I'm wrong, the first thing I do is I go back to my information. I go back to everything I did. And I examine it carefully so that I avoid being fooled in the same way the next time round. So, let no Kenyan or even Tanzanian start getting emotional about this thing. Just relax. Take a deep breath. And let's wait. If what we are being told is true, sooner rather than later, the bodies will start to show up. Concrete evidence will start to show up. And then, when it does, the first thing we'll need to do, we shall need to find out why things are different in Kenya. What exactly Kenya did that Tanzania did not do? And don't talk to me about churches and mosques. Please, let's not go there. Because I'll start getting emotional. Because we know that the government is now reopening restaurants. And our Muslim brothers and sisters are in their Ramadan season. But they still can't go to the mosque. And nobody has said anything about churches, where we worship Almighty God. But we have no problem reopening restaurants. That tells you, even if you still want to ignore, that there's a spiritual link in this crisis. There definitely is. Because this is not a Kenyan problem. Worldwide, the churches and the mosques have not reopened, and nobody has talked about them. Sometimes when you want to catch a criminal who is very clever, one piece of evidence by itself may look very weak. But if you start making a list of very small pieces of evidence, they tend to accumulate. And in this global crisis, the list is very long and it continues to grow every day. And that is why, in my opinion, I could be wrong, but in my opinion, this is a strong indicator, that those behind this crisis are being cornered very fast, and that very soon, all this will be over. You can fool some people all the time, but you can't fool all the people all the time. We're even getting medical breakthroughs, medicines that actually seem to work or look promising, in working against the virus, which defeats the main objective here, which is to vaccinate the whole world. Soon, and very soon, the people who matter, the most powerful people, will sit up and say, hey, hold on a minute. What are we doing here? And I believe that is already happening. Until next time, this is Chris Kumekucha.